Hey, Mental Moss here, and today I have another interview segment with the Creative Director on Battleborn. And this time we're gonna talk about some characters that were in development but sadly didn't make it into the game.
Incoming badass! Hold on. No, it's Metal Mars.
Was there any content cut from the game that sadly didn't make it in the final release?
We had several early characters. In fact, do you remember we talked some about the orange character that appeared in the early art?
Do you mean Miss Fireballs?
No, that was an early Arendi concept.
Yeah.
So that was definitely Arendi. But there was a big kind of monstrous mouthy guy that sat in the back in a couple of those pictures. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
So his name was Ejo-Lorr. He was a big monstrous guy that kind of had two things going on. He had a pull attack like Galt and Shane and Aurochs ended up with, where he could pull enemies in. He had a gravitational beam. And then he basically had this big vomit attack where he could vomit on the ground and enemies that he pulled in there and would kind of melt and corrode them when they came in. You see another version of his gameplay really manifested in Galt. That character, we actually recorded a first round of all his battle dialogue, and it was disgusting, but it was hysterical because he really thought he was a ladies' man, and him being a big disgusting beast, Ejo-Lorr loved the ladies, there's a lot of dialogue kind of along that, and it was, Ejo, no, he killed you, but he still liked your digits. There were some really, really great dialogue lines, and he was kind of a character. He got cut and repurposed kind of for two reasons. One, we were having a really tough time getting the art the way we wanted it. It was a really difficult character to kind of make happen, and we were never quite satisfied with that. But also, he was a quadruped. He had 4 legs and 2 arms. We actually had one other character called Annabelle and the Iron Fist, kind of almost like a Shane and Aurochs concept about this little girl who kind of drove this massive mech around. The mech turned into Isaac, and we did it a little bit differently. But we had actually moved down the path and had those 2 characters, Annabelle and Ejo-Lorr, beyond prototype. We had them in-game. Their early models were done. They were developed out. And because we had a huge problem with the quadrupeds, tripping and getting stuck on stuff and collision, when we made the decision to go from 15 characters to 25, we had to kind of simplify the characters that we were making. So we made a really hard decision at that point to drop all the characters at that time who were quadrupeds. We actually had another that was in the prototyping phase that was going to be another cool character, and we moved away from that in favor of simpler designs on the characters. Ejo-Lorr, like I said, you can still see part of him in Aurochs and part of him in Galt, so his spirit still lives on. But as a full-on playable character, yeah, he was in early character art and then didn't make the game, so.
Well, there is a piece of gear with a quote from Oxo-lorr. Is that a reference or his brother?
So the Lorrians are a race of beings in the universe that are kind of like, the closest thing I can compare them to would be the Hutts in the Star Wars, And you had, if you look at Star Wars lore, you have Jabba the Hutt, and there were several other, I can't remember the names of the other Hutts, but if you're a Star Wars fan and read around in the extended universe and some of the other things, you're going to find other Hutts. And it's kind of the same thing with the Lorrians. They use a hyphenated name thing, but lore is kind of a more of a title or a nod to their race. They're all a little questionable. They deal black market technology and all of that. And you're going to find out a little bit more about. In fact, one of the operation missions talks a little bit more about the Lorrians and the Lorrian, someone who used that quite specifically as a title. But yeah, Ejo and Oxo were a couple of characters that were from that race and did some things in that universe. And there's another one that will come out in the DLC missions to talk about.
The Lorrian, is that a reference to Back to the Future?
The Lorrian, not DeLorean. But good. That was pretty close there. That's funny. It sounds like that.